I apologized for the appearance of my daughter-in-law, which my mother-in-law found displeasing. During my father-in-law's 60th birthday celebration, she reprimanded me in front of our relatives, lamenting not just her lack of attractiveness, but also her perceived incompetence. It was truly humiliating. I found myself wondering where my usually supportive husband was during this ordeal. Was he occupied with our daughter? His absence was conspicuous. Upon my arrival at my in-laws' home, feeling ready to enjoy the festivities, my mother-in-law suddenly complained of chronic back pain, rendering her unable to participate. Consequently, she entrusted all party preparations to me. As the event progressed, she continued to denigrate me in front of our gathered relatives, casting a shadow over what should have been a joyous occasion. It felt as though the lively atmosphere had turned somber, resembling more of a funeral than a celebration. Then, breaking the uncomfortable silence, my father-in-law stood up. "Is that all you have to say?" Little did anyone know, this seemingly innocuous question would set off a chain of events beyond imagination. My name is Sarah, and I'm 35 years old. 6 years ago, I tied the knot with Michael, my husband, who happened to be 3 years my junior. Together, we have a delightful 5-year-old daughter. However, despite the joy of our family, there was always a shadow lurking in the form of my mother-in-law's disapproval. She harbored resentment towards me for being older than her son. Every holiday visit, be it New Year's, Memorial Day, or any national celebration, was tainted by her cutting remarks aimed at me, often in the absence of my husband. "I wish I had a younger, livelier, and more attractive daughter-in-law, not someone adorned with age spots like you," she would say with a sharp tongue. "Do I really look that old?" "Yes, very much so. Haven't you noticed your own reflection in the mirror every day?" Receiving criticism about one's appearance can be deeply hurtful, especially for women. Despite this, I tried to brush it off, considering our limited interactions occurring only a few times a year. However, instead of diffusing the situation, my nonchalant response seemed to further provoke her. "You're remarkably thick-skinned for a woman of your age. It's irritating how you remain unaffected by my words. You lack even a trace of humility," she continued, her words growing harsher with each exchange. "Yeah," was all I could muster in response. How should I confront my mother-in-law, whose words always leave me speechless? In front of my husband, she wears a facade of kindness, concealing her true nature. It's as if he's oblivious to her mistreatment of me. Yet, if I were to express my frustrations, I fear I'd bear the blame. So, I've endured in silence. Visiting their home with her presence feels like carrying a heavy burden. Despite this, it was a significant occasion, my gentle father-in-law's 60th birthday celebration. With numerous relatives gathering for the grand event, I chose to attend. Though my father-in-law is reserved, his subtle acts of kindness envelop me when my mother-in-law's hurtful words weigh me down. He gently approaches, offering solace with his words. "Sarah, if you're struggling, please don't hesitate to confide in me. I'd like to offer my support if that's all right with you." I couldn't help but wonder if my father-in-law was aware of the harassment I endured from my mother-in-law. Perhaps he chose to refrain from openly supporting me to shield me from further mistreatment behind the scenes. To honor our compassionate father-in-law, our family embarked on a 3-hour journey early in the morning to reach our in-laws' home. Feeling a bit under the weather with a low-grade fever and lingering fatigue, I entrusted the driving to my husband, Michael. Upon arrival, my mother-in-law emerged from the front door with an air of cheerfulness. Well, look who's here. It's been a while, Michael. You should visit more often. Oh dear, you look exhausted." "I've been driving non-stop, so it's understandable," Michael replied wearily. "You've clearly put in a lot of effort. I'll prepare the bed right away. Why don't you go rest in the back room?" "That sounds like a plan, Sarah. You should rest too. You've been tending to our child in the car. You must be exhausted. Plus, you don't seem well." "Oh, Michael, you didn't know. I spoke with Sarah yesterday, and we arranged to go shopping for the 60th birthday celebration." "Sarah, you go rest. Once you've placed the luggage at the entrance, we'll head out." Of course, I couldn't recall any such arrangement, nor did I recall discussing any shopping plans. After looking after our energetic 5-year-old daughter, I felt drained. Since I wasn't feeling well, I welcomed the chance to rest. Since Sarah isn't feeling well, let her rest. You can handle the shopping, but this is your father's special occasion. I want to pick out the finest ingredients with Sarah. Sarah, you'll stick to our plan, won't you? She had a knack for presenting excuses that left me no room for refusal. After dropping off the luggage, she grabbed my arm forcefully and directed me back into the car we had just exited. With an intense glare, she snapped, "You don't need rest right now." But almost instantly, her demeanor softened into a broad smile as she exclaimed, "Thank you for driving, Miss. I really appreciate it." Knowing my mother-in-law's temperament, opposing her at that moment would likely ruin the entire day. With reluctance, I found myself settling into the driver's seat. "I'm feeling all right, Michael. You take a break. I'll accompany mother-in-law for shopping." Attempting to hand her daughter over to Michael, my mother-in-law swiftly intervened, taking the child from my arms and settling her into the child's seat before shutting the door firmly. Taking care of the child is a mother's responsibility. "Well then, Michael, we're off." As she settled into the passenger seat, her previously sweet demeanor vanished, replaced by a harsh tone as she began to chastise me. "So, you can't even manage to care for your own child? Quit relying on Michael for everything. You're nothing but an incompetent daughter-in-law, aging before your time." What was truly unsettling was her ability to maintain a sugary facade while my husband, Michael, remained within earshot, completely oblivious. "Wave goodbye to this microwave," she quipped as we embarked on the drive in my husband's unfamiliar car towards the bustling supermarket. Predictably, my mother-in-law wasted no time before launching into a lecture. "You'll regret lounging around while my son drives, mother-in-law," I retorted weakly. "Please refrain from such ominous remarks. I've been battling fever and fatigue since this morning. Your poor health stems from your lack of discipline, and your crow's feet, more pronounced. Those cheek spots, darker. It's painful to witness. Your skin has lost its former vitality," she criticized relentlessly. Drained of all energy to counter her harsh words, I merely nodded as we reached the supermarket. This is utterly exhausting. How do daughters-in-law worldwide endure such treatment from their mothers-in-law? My spirited mother-in-law sprang out of the car without a word of gratitude, immediately thrusting 2 shopping carts into my hands. "Move faster, you're so slow." Attempting to steer clear of the bustling crowds, I lagged behind, but she surged ahead, filling the carts with extravagant items like USDA prime beef, crab, salmon roe, and melons. She then proceeded to toss in unnecessary items. "Mother-in-law, do we really need all of this right now? I've already decided. We're stocking up so we won't have to make frequent trips. You should have known that without my having to tell you." Feeling utterly helpless, I allowed her to dictate the shopping list. By the time we finished, the carts were overflowing. "Let's head to checkout. Move quickly now. No dawdling." Despite her haste, when it was time to settle the bill at the checkout counter, my mother-in-law made no move to retrieve her wallet. "Mother-in-law, the payment," I ventured. She kept her hands folded behind her back, unmoving. When I pressed her again for the money, she shot me an angry glare. "You should foot the bill for everything." "Excuse me," I stammered. "As a wife, it's your responsibility to cater to your husband's family. Don't be miserly, just pay up." Reluctantly, I ended up covering the entire bill at the register, totaling $300. With no cash on hand, I had to charge it to my credit card. As a part-time worker trying to support my child, this financial blow hit hard. What made matters worse was that I had brought $300 as a birthday gift for my father-in-law's 60th birthday, but now I couldn't use it. This expense meant tightening our belts even further in the future, adding to the already heavy burden. I wonder how I'll break this news to Michael. If I were to speak up about this treatment, my mother-in-law might cause a scene. During the car ride home, she continued her onslaught of insults, showcasing an impressive array of verbal attacks. On our arrival home, my husband remained fast asleep, likely exhausted. Sensing an opportunity, my mother-in-law's smile widened as she began to assert her authority over me. "After you've put away the groceries, go eat in the garden immediately. Could I please have a moment to rest? You have no right to defy your mother-in-law. This is the consequence of letting Michael drive alone. You brought this upon yourself," I muttered. "If you have time to argue, then you have time to work. Hurry up, we're running out of time. After you've eaten, clean the bathroom and the toilet." Despite the injustice of the situation, I had no option but to endure it. Throughout the day, I toiled in the garden, pulling out weeds before tackling the grime and yellow stains in the bathroom and toilet. As I worked, I consoled myself with the thought that once the 60th birthday celebration concluded, I could enjoy some respite from my mother-in-law's presence. Just as I finished cleaning, my husband stirred from his slumber, surprised to find me still at work. "Sarah, are you all right? If you're not feeling well, don't push yourself too hard. Take a break," he urged. "Thank you, I'll take you up on that," I replied wearily. "Ouch, that hurts." But before I could finally rest, my mother-in-law suddenly let out a piercing cry, clutching her back in agony. Despite her earlier vitality, she now complained of sudden back pain, her demeanor shifting from lively to frail in an instant. "This is troublesome. My back is in excruciating pain. I can't manage anything. My chronic back issues have flared up once more. I won't be able to prepare food before our relatives arrive. Sarah, you're my only hope. But oh, what am I to do?" While her distressed demeanor seemed somewhat contrived, if her chronic back pain was genuine, then standing in the kitchen would indeed be impossible for her. With a heavy heart, I entrusted my husband with our daughter's care and reluctantly began cooking. "Sarah, are you certain you're all right?" "I'm fine. Cooking is my usual responsibility, remember?" I maintained a facade of strength for my husband, though my body was already weary. However, it was a significant day for my father-in-law, and I felt compelled to soldier on. My head is spinning, and the scent of food is making me queasy. But I must persevere for my father-in-law's sake. After completing the cooking, my father-in-law entered the kitchen to check on me. "You've worked tirelessly. Thank you for preparing all this food." "It's my pleasure. It's all for you. Please enjoy it later." As the relatives began to gather, each offering well wishes to my father-in-law, the atmosphere became animated. After the toasts were made and we were on the verge of starting the meal, my mother-in-law uttered something utterly shocking. "I regret to inform everyone that due to my chronic back pain acting up on this important birthday celebration, all the food was prepared by my daughter-in-law. I apologize for the lackluster quality of the dishes, courtesy of my unattractive daughter-in-law." Both my father-in-law and husband were stunned into silence by my mother-in-law's sudden outburst. "Not only is my daughter-in-law unattractive, but she's also clumsy and utterly inept. It's truly a shame," she continued, her tone dripping with disdain. As she exaggeratedly rubbed her back, my mother-in-law persisted in belittling me. "She's quite clumsy, you see. Without my assistance, she's helpless. I even question her ability to care for her own child. I worry whether Michael can cope with such a wife." What should have been a joyous occasion swiftly descended into a somber atmosphere, reminiscent more of a funeral than a celebration. My typically supportive husband, who should have been caring for our daughter, was conspicuously absent. Then, in a moment that shattered the tension, my father-in-law, who had been silently observing, rose to his feet. "Is that all you have to say?" he demanded, his voice cutting through the tension. "Seems like it. Perhaps it's time to bid farewell to the useless one," my mother-in-law added, her words dripping with contempt. In that instant, my husband strode into the room, carrying our daughter in a suitcase. His expression was unusually stern. "Dad, as you suggested, I've packed her belongings," he declared firmly. My mother-in-law's smile hinted at satisfaction. "Sarah, it appears you're being shown the door," she taunted. But to her astonishment, my husband handed the suitcase to her. "What?" My father-in-law's booming voice delivered the final blow. "Take that and leave this house immediately." Despite her initial confusion, my mother-in-law swiftly grasped the gravity of the situation. "Why am I the one being asked to leave? It's Sarah who's incompetent. The bathroom is always covered in mold, the toilet left filthy, and you dare to label Sarah as useless when you hardly lift a finger to cook. And let's not forget how terribly you've treated her. I've had my fill. It's a mother-in-law's responsibility to guide her daughter-in-law. I was merely pointing out her flaws." "Guidance. Please. Do you think we're living in?" my father-in-law began, but the raised eyebrows of an enraged father-in-law left no room for support. Realizing she wouldn't garner any sympathy from him, my mother-in-law resorted to her usual theatrics, turning to my husband and bursting into tears. "Michael, don't get the wrong idea. Someday, we might have to take care of your father, right? So, I was trying to teach Sarah how to be a good wife, as difficult as that may have been. Taking care of him, that's a joke. I won't be fooled by you anymore. You've been mistreating Sarah all along, even today." Despite feeling unwell, she still came to celebrate Dad's 60th birthday. "Sarah volunteered to join the celebration, didn't she? Don't deny it. And you made her foot the bill for the groceries, didn't you?" I found a receipt from today in her bag when she was trying to get candies for our daughter. It clearly shows Sarah paid with her credit card. I just asked her to pay because I didn't have any cash on me. I was planning to reimburse her later, honestly. Really? If I hadn't noticed, you would have stayed silent about it. I've ignored the typical mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts, but you've crossed a line. I'm tired of living with such a spiteful old woman. Witnessing my husband and father-in-law turn away from her, my mother-in-law reverted to her usual theatrics, blaming me with all her usual dramatic flair, tears streaming down her face. No, I haven't vocalized it, but it's undeniable that you've been mistreating me, isn't it? For the sake of my father-in-law and my husband, who had shown me unwavering support, I summoned the courage to speak the truth for the first time. I refused to let my mother-in-law continue to dictate the narrative. That's correct. We were informed by Mia. We're aware of the derogatory remarks you made about Sarah at the supermarket and in the car afterward. You forced Sarah to handle all the weeding and cleaning in the house. Yeah, Grandma was mean to Mommy. She made her clean lots of things. You can't just dismiss a child's words. Maya doesn't lie. Let's review the dash cam footage. That should clarify everything. Excellent suggestion, Sarah. I'll do that right away. Ignoring his mother's protests, Michael strode out to the parked car, starting the engine and pulling up the dash cam footage. The latest model, equipped to record both the road and the car's interior, provided crystal clear visuals, including facial expressions. It's all there. She said those things, I murmured. I'm appalled, echoed everyone as they watched the footage unfold. This is utterly unacceptable. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law, who had remained inside the house, adamantly denying any wrongdoing, began to panic as tension thickened, rushing barefoot toward the car. Stop this immediately. Don't watch. But no amount of shouting could halt the revelation. With all her transgressions laid bare, my mother-in-law stood speechless, stunned into silence. That's when my father-in-law casually handed her a single piece of paper. I've filled out my portion. You just need to complete yours and submit it. What? Is this a divorce form? I had to prepare it just in case. I never imagined I'd have to use it. Never darken my doorstep again. Wait, I promise to change. Promises won't suffice, Sarah. Please find it in your heart to forgive me. Seeing my mother-in-law plead for forgiveness, tears streaming down her face, was a pitiful sight. But I suspected it might be yet another performance. With resolve, I gently pushed her away. You've revealed your mistreatment of your daughter-in-law. I can never forgive you. It's best you leave before the neighbors become involved. Oh no, this is dreadful. The commotion caught the attention of neighbors who observed from a distance. Perhaps unwilling to create a scene, she swiftly accepted the divorce papers and her suitcase, miraculously recovered from her supposed back pain, and dashed out of the garden. With the villains swiftly dealt with, our once tense home was now heavy with remorse. I apologize for all this disruption during your 60th birthday celebration, Dad, I said sincerely, bracing for his response. Sarah, you bear no blame. I'm the one who should apologize for all the trouble we've caused. Let's put this behind us and start anew, he replied. A smile graced my father-in-law's face. The relatives, too, looked on with sympathetic expressions. Later, they commended the dishes I had prepared and enjoyed them with gusto. In that moment, all weariness seemed to evaporate into thin air. Thus, we commemorated my father-in-law's 60th birthday in grand style. Despite her initial reluctance, my mother-in-law eventually agreed to the divorce, and it concluded amicably. It also came to light that she had been embezzling funds from my father-in-law's account, resulting in an order for her to repay $10,000 that she had spent recklessly. Struggling to secure employment due to her lack of experience, she now works as a nighttime janitor in an office building. With little money remaining, she resides in a dilapidated apartment that has seen better days. Meanwhile, I discovered that I was pregnant with my second child. The discomfort I had experienced earlier was attributed to my pregnancy. 5 months have elapsed since then, and my husband Michael has been incredibly supportive. Our ultrasound revealed that we are expecting a baby boy. Both Michael and my father-in-law eagerly anticipate his arrival, already preparing for his welcome. My father-in-law even sent over a selection of blue baby clothes. Our darling daughter is thrilled at the prospect of having a younger brother and diligently practices caring for a baby with her dolls each day. Witnessing her enthusiasm fills me with boundless joy.
For years, Julia had devoted herself to caring for her disabled husband, all while carrying their unborn child. But suspicions gnawed at her, leading her to place a discreet camera in their home. What she uncovered shattered her world. Meanwhile, in the office, oblivious to the passing time, Julia was engrossed in her work. Sketches littered her desk as she diligently crafted designs, her mind consumed by the project. It was only when her boss, Mark, appeared with concern etched on his face that she snapped back to reality. "Julia, dear, it's time to take a break," Mark gently admonished. "You've been here far too long. Simon needs to be picked up from school." With a jolt, Julia realized the lateness of the hour. "Nearly 7 already? I must hurry," she exclaimed, hastily gathering her belongings. "And we must discuss the new children's book cover design later. Traditional meets contemporary, remember?" As Julia rushed to the bus stop, Mark marveled at her dedication and multitasking prowess. He admired her not just as a colleague but as a person, captivated by her resilience amidst life's challenges. Yet, as he gazed into her somber eyes, Julia's focus remained steadfastly on her family, leaving Mark to ponder in solitude. Rushing into the Karate Academy, Julia found Simon anxiously waiting in the changing room. He sighed with relief upon seeing her, expressing his worry. "Mom, I thought you forgot about me. Everyone else's parents have already picked them up." Embracing him tightly, Julia apologized. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Work held me up. Let's head home now. How was school? Did you get a lot of homework?" As they made their way home, Simon shared proudly that he had finished his homework while waiting. Julia praised his responsibility. "You're truly remarkable, my dear. Always so dependable and excelling in school. I'm incredibly lucky to have you." Yet, both of them felt the absence of Julia's late husband, Simon's father, whose passing left a void in their lives. Upon their return, they found Octavio, Julia's current husband, reclined on the couch, visibly irritated, flipping through TV channels. He grumbled, "Took you long enough. I've been starving since lunch. Nobody cares about me. I'm just a burden." Worried, Julia inquired about Octavio's well-being. "Why are you speaking like this? Is your leg bothering you? I'll whip up dinner quickly and prepare a compress for you, I promise." Octavio's demeanor softened as he waited for his meal, while Simon, frustrated by Octavio's lack of consideration for his mother, headed to the kitchen to assist Julia, peeling potatoes and slicing tomatoes. Julia praised her son, grateful for his help. Since Octavio's illness, Julia's life had become an ongoing struggle. Balancing the care of her son, the demands of her job, and the needs of her sick husband left her with no time for herself, perpetually drained and exhausted. In the workplace, Julia commanded deep respect and admiration from her colleagues. Her dedication was unwavering, infused with compassion and boundless enthusiasm. But the roots of her story stretch back much further. Julia, the youngest in her family, faced profound loss early in life. Her parents, aged and frail, departed, leaving her feeling adrift in her spacious apartment bedroom. Yearning for moments shared with her mother, longing for words of encouragement and paternal affection, Julia found herself navigating a world now devoid of their presence. Amidst this tumultuous period, Julia encountered Tony, her first husband. A soldier by profession, Tony's deployments often kept him far from home, punctuated only by brief reprieves. Their love blossomed swiftly, culminating in marriage. Julia stood faithfully by his side, enduring the agonizing stretches of his absence. With the birth of their son Simon, Tony vowed to retire from his perilous occupation. Tragically, that pledge remained unfulfilled. Tony never returned, leaving Julia a widow at the tender age of 25. Though the mornings were fraught with sorrow, Julia found solace in the unwavering love of her son and the refuge of her work. Years later, Julia's path intersected with Octavio, a man of striking contrast to Tony. Secure and charismatic, he courted her with poetic gestures and bouquets of flowers. Unwittingly, Julia found herself falling deeply in love. Octavio proved adept with Simon, and their bond led to marriage, buoyed by Octavio's steadfast insistence. As a builder, Octavio's work often necessitated travel, providing financial stability to their home. However, murmurs of skepticism swirled among Julia's colleagues at the workshop. Rose, a trusted confidant, voiced concerns, questioning the nature of Octavio's frequent absences and the secrecy surrounding his past. Julia, bristling at the insinuations, defended her husband's honor, urging her colleagues to desist from unfounded speculation. "Please stop," she implored. "Octavio has his reasons for guarding his past. It's not for us to pry. He provides for us, and that's all that matters. And rest assured, our family is expanding with the arrival of our new baby." Simon is overjoyed at the prospect of a sibling. However, tragedy befell Octavio during his work at a construction site in a nearby city. A fall from the third-floor scaffolding left him with severe injuries to his leg and ankle. Despite returning home with a cast, his mobility remained compromised long after the accident. For a man accustomed to activity, this incident dealt a crushing blow, leaving him feeling incapacitated and detached from the world around him. Julia, empathetic and supportive, shouldered the burden of household duties, caring for Simon, and assuming sole financial responsibility as Octavio's ability to work waned. With Octavio confined to their home, unable to contribute economically, Julia found herself stretched thin, especially with the impending arrival of their new baby. Yet, resolute in her determination to remain strong for her children, she soldiered on. What troubled her most, however, was Octavio's demeanor. He appeared disengaged, showing little interest in Simon's academic progress or household matters. Julia couldn't help but feel frustrated that despite his injury, Octavio seemed unwilling to offer even a modicum of support. "Octavio, why do you remain so despondent?" Julia implored, attempting to buoy his spirits. "Perhaps a short walk on the balcony for some fresh air might lift your mood. I'll assist you. It could aid in your recovery. Don't succumb to despair like this. Can't you see how much I'm struggling? I'm in constant pain, and the painkillers hardly alleviate it. I feel utterly helpless." Octavio's response came laced with accusation. "You're selfish, Julia. You only consider your own needs. Pregnancy isn't an ailment. Why do you complain? I spend my days alone, waiting for your return, only to be met with blame when you're here." Julia's heart sank at the bitterness in his words, grappling with the weight of her responsibilities and the strain on their relationship. A few days later, Octavio stumbled upon an online healer named Camila, boasting quick and effective cures for muscular and bone ailments. Despite Julia's attempts to dissuade him, Octavio remained convinced of the treatment's efficacy. Regular visits from Camila ensued, with Octavio claiming a reduction in his pain. On an ordinary day, Julia returned home earlier than usual due to Simon's illness, finding unfamiliar female footwear in the hallway. Realization dawned swiftly. Camila was in their house. The closed kitchen door piqued Julia's curiosity, prompting her to eavesdrop on Octavio and the supposed healer's conversation. What she heard left her reeling. Octavio's discontent spilled forth as he lamented, "Camila, I can't go on like this. Pretending to be infirm is exhausting. My back aches from lying around all day, and I've even put on weight. When will we rid ourselves of Julia and her son? She's already growing tired of me, but I can't wait to claim this magnificent house as my own." Attempting to assuage Octavio's impatience, Camila cautioned, "Rushing this will only invite suspicion, especially now that Julia's pregnant. We must proceed carefully. You'll need to care for the unborn child to avoid arousing suspicion as a widower. Patience is key. We've narrowly escaped detection before. Obtaining reliable poison is imperative. Administer it gradually in their tea, ensuring their demise appears as severe poisoning. No traces must remain. In a month, they'll be gone, and you'll be free." A shiver raced down Julia's spine as she absorbed the sinister plot unfolding before her. Her colleagues' suspicions about Octavio had proven tragically accurate. Her immediate impulse to confront them battled with the need for concrete evidence. She couldn't risk their escape. "He never loved me. Our marriage was a facade," Julia realized bitterly. "His reaction to my pregnancy wasn't joy, it was dread. I've endangered Simon by leaving him in Octavio's care." Desperation and determination warred within her as she silently retreated, bracing herself for the confrontation ahead. Gathering her resolve, Julia burst into the room with calculated force, masking her turmoil with practiced composure. "Hello, I'm back," she announced, steeling herself for the tumultuous ordeal ahead. As Julia stepped into the house, the kitchen door creaked open, revealing the healer. "Good afternoon, Julia. Our session just concluded. Your husband is showing signs of improvement. I'm doing everything in my power to aid his recovery," the healer announced. Julia, though shaken, maintained her facade of composure. "Thank you. I'll settle the payment in 2 days when I receive my salary. We'll settle the fees for both sessions." she replied calmly. With a nod, the healer departed, leaving Julia to confront her husband. Engaging in strained conversation with Octavio, Julia tended to his needs before checking on Simon, citing exhaustion and a throbbing headache. She was appalled by Octavio's deceit and the depths of his betrayal. The following day at work, Julia found herself consumed by distress, retreating to the privacy of the bathroom to weep. Lost in her turmoil, she was approached by Mark, whose concern was palpable. "Julia, forgive me if I'm prying, but something's clearly troubling you." "It pains me to see you like this," he remarked gently. Surprised by Mark's empathy, Julia divulged her harrowing ordeal. With a history of trust between them, she poured out her fears and uncertainties. "I feel trapped, Mark. It's like living with a traitor and a potential murderer. What should I do? How can I seek justice and safeguard Simon and myself?" she implored. Mark's response was resolute. "Julia, we must involve the authorities. I'll reach out to a reliable investigator I know. Share everything with him. He'll provide the assistance you need. Additionally, I have a plan. Discreetly tamper with Octavio's wheelchair, removing the screws, and leave a concealed recording device. If he's feigning his condition, he'll reveal it when the chair collapses. That'll be the evidence we require. I'll coordinate with the police for swift action. Remember, you're not alone in this." Empowered by Mark's support, Julia felt a surge of relief. With guidance from the investigator, her fear abated somewhat. She resolved to meticulously gather evidence against Octavio and the fraudulent healer, heeding the investigator's advice to exercise caution, preparing her own food and drink. Yet, with each encounter with Octavio, her resentment and fury simmered beneath the surface, fueling her determination to expose the truth. That night, Julia meticulously tampered with Octavio's wheelchair, carefully removing the screws and setting up her cell phone to record. As Octavio leaned on the chair, the wheels gave way, causing him to tumble. Swiftly rising to his feet, he attempted to maintain his ruse. Simon, drawn by the commotion, dashed into the room, jubilantly exclaiming, "Uncle Octavio, you're not sick anymore. You're cured. How amazing." Julia's applause was laced with sarcasm as she addressed Octavio. "Indeed, Simon, it appears the healer's sessions are yielding miraculous results. Just look at Octavio's sudden agility. How could you deceive us like this? Why pretend to be ill?" Octavio, caught off guard, feigned discomfort, attempting to salvage his facade. But Julia's patience had worn thin. "Enough of this farce, Octavio. Your deceit is laid bare. There was never any injury, it was all a fabrication." Before Octavio could concoct a response, the doorbell rang. Simon rushed to answer it, ushering in Mark accompanied by a police officer. Informed of the plan, Mark wasted no time in springing into action. Together, they swiftly immobilized Octavio, thwarting any chance of escape. The police officer wasted no time in issuing a stern declaration. "Octavio Martinez, you and your accomplice Lucia, also known as Camila, are under arrest for attempted murder against Julia and Simon. Further investigation has revealed similar schemes in multiple cities, exploiting vulnerable individuals for personal gain. Your malicious intent will not go unpunished." Octavio's protests fell on deaf ears as the investigator intervened, silencing him. "Your theatrics won't save you, Octavio. Julia has provided damning evidence of your fraudulent recovery, and your accomplice has already confessed. Your time for deception is over." Julia, still reeling from the shock, watched as Octavio was escorted away, her heart heavy with the weight of betrayal. As the chaos subsided, Simon approached Mark, displaying a maturity beyond his years, a silent testament to the resilience of youth. "Thank you for helping Mom. Uncle Octavio is bad. I don't like him. He doesn't love Mom or me." "He's not coming back," Simon stated solemnly. Mark replied with equal gravity, "No, Simon, he's not coming back. And I'll be around if you'll have me because your mother needs support now." Simon's innocent smile brightened the room. "Sure, come visit us more often. You're like a movie hero unmasking Uncle Octavio," he quipped. Recognizing the need for privacy, Mark suggested, "How about you watch a cartoon? I need to talk to your mother. It's adult stuff, probably boring for you." Understanding, Simon headed to his room as Mark turned his attention to Julia. He enveloped her in a comforting embrace, his voice gentle. "Don't torment yourself anymore, Julia. It's all over. Octavio and his accomplice will be in prison for a long time." Julia, almost in a daze, murmured, "Why do I have such bad luck? My first husband died. The second was a criminal, and now I'm pregnant with his child." Why can't I find a decent man? Is it me? Mark's response was steady and reassuring. Don't you see who's been by your side all these years? You're searching for happiness in distant places without realizing what you already have. I've always loved you unconditionally, Julia. I would never betray you. Look around. I don't want to pressure you, but know that I'm here. Touched by his sincerity, Julia finally allowed herself to trust. She embraced him gratefully. Thank you for being here, Mark, for everything. I don't know if I can reciprocate your feelings, but I'm willing to get to know you better. And who knows what the future holds. Mark's response was filled with understanding. Don't worry, I have great admiration for you, and above all, I want to be your friend, someone you can trust. If it doesn't work out romantically, that's okay. But at least let me be there for you. I don't want you to leave my side, Mark. I just need time to process all this. But I definitely want us to get to know each other better, Julia confessed. From that moment on, Julia's life began to take a turn for the better. Despite the challenges of pregnancy and lingering doubts, Mark remained a constant source of support. Their bond deepened, and eventually Julia realized that Mark was the loving and reliable partner she had been searching for. She divorced Octavio and married Mark, finding happiness in the warmth of his love. She had always harbored dreams of a loving family, even though she initially dismissed Mark as merely a man of charming words. However, time proved him to be a steadfast and affectionate partner, both to her and to Simon. Their workshop thrived, and Mark's business ventures occasionally took him away on trips to negotiate clothing sales in other cities. Julia still had a month left until her expected due date, but fate took an unexpected turn one night when her water broke prematurely, triggering early contractions. In a panic, she called for an ambulance, slipping into unconsciousness, barely managing to request her neighbor's assistance in caring for Simon. Rushed to the hospital, Julia's labor unfolded into a nightmarish ordeal, a relentless struggle between consciousness and oblivion. Among the massed medical personnel attending to her, Julia failed to recognize one nurse, Lucia, Octavio's accomplice, who had seized an opportunity for revenge against Julia for thwarting her plans with Octavio. Upon regaining consciousness, Julia's heart sank as she realized the absence of her newborn. Frantically, she demanded answers, her voice a desperate cry echoing through the sterile hospital room. Where is my son? I need to see my baby. What happened? Approaching her with a heavy heart, a doctor gently broke the devastating news. I'm deeply sorry, Julia, but your son didn't survive. The umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck, and despite our best efforts, we couldn't save him. You're young. There will be other opportunities for you to have children. Overwhelmed by grief, Julia buried her face in her hands, her sobs echoing off the stark hospital walls. The doctors intervened, administering sedatives to ease her anguish, yet the pain of losing her child pierced her soul, leaving her shattered and bereft. Upon learning of the tragic loss, Mark hurried to the hospital to offer solace to Julia. She was consumed by inconsolable grief, murmuring through tears, I would rather have perished than my son. I can't bear to live. Why did this happen to me? Mark enveloped her in a tender embrace, his touch a feeble attempt to soothe her anguish. Don't speak like that, Julia. You must stay strong, especially for Simon. He still needs you. Time will ease the pain. I'll be here every step of the way, he assured her gently. As they lay their baby to rest, Julia wept bitterly at the small graveside, grappling with the unbearable reality of their loss. Only Simon's unexpected fortitude and maturity offered her a glimmer of solace, allowing her to navigate the depths of her sorrow. Together, mother and son embarked on the arduous journey of healing. While the memory of their lost child continued to weigh heavily on Julia's heart, 7 years later, their atelier had blossomed into one of the city's most prestigious and sought-after establishments, drawing clientele from far and wide. Working in seamless harmony, Julia and Mark shared an unspoken understanding, their partnership flourishing amidst the creative whirl of their shared passion. Mark and Simon, now poised 13-year-old, had forged a bond akin to that of father and son. Simon excelled both on the soccer field and in his studies, a testament to his dedication and zest for life. One day, Julia found herself needing to take the subway for an urgent business meeting as their car was undergoing repairs. Along the way, her path intersected with that of a 7-year-old boy, his small frame supported by crutches, his appearance downtrodden and unkempt. Her heart constricted at the sight of him. Moved by compassion, she purchased pastries and hot tea, approaching the boy with a gentle offer. He devoured the food ravenously, nearly choking in his haste. Julia then delicately inquired, "Hello there, little one. What's your name? Why are you here on the streets? What happened to you?" The boy, once he finished eating, responded with a blend of timidity and resilience, "I'm John. I tried to ride a bicycle too big for me, and I ended up falling and injuring my leg. Since then, I had to rely on these crutches to get around." Concern etched across her features, Julia probed further, "That sounds serious, John. Haven't your parents taken you to see a doctor? You're so young. Surely there's treatment available." John let out a heavy sigh, his voice tinged with resignation. "My mother is always drunk, and I don't even know who my father is. She neglects me, never bothering to seek medical help. She insists it's better for me to beg for money." A wave of sadness and empathy washed over Julia as she wrapped the boy in a comforting embrace, pledging, "Fear not, John. My husband, Mark, and I will find a way to assist you. We'll explore avenues for your treatment." The boy regarded her with a mix of hope and skepticism. "I doubt it will make a difference. My mother prefers me to beg. She doesn't want me to get better," he lamented. Driven by an overwhelming urge to intervene, Julia vowed to John that she would spare no effort in improving his circumstances. Galvanized by her determination and the boy's longing for a brighter future, she offered reassurance. "Let's explore our options, John. Hold on to hope. We'll advocate for you. No child should endure suffering due to their parents' neglect." She swiftly dialed Mark, her voice choked with emotion, and relayed the distressing situation. Mark wasted no time, arriving promptly to lend his ear to John's tale and extend his assistance. Together they resolved to visit the boy's home to confront his mother and gain deeper insight into their predicament. With a touch of apprehension, John guided them to his apartment. As they prepared to depart, Julia took note of John's tattered and soiled attire, declaring, "We'll pick up some fresh clothes for you on our way." Excitedly, John inquired if he should bring anything along. Julia assured him, "No need. We'll take care of everything." Upon reaching the apartment, they were met with a pungent odor of alcohol and tobacco lingering in the air. The apartment lay in disarray, and John's mother lay slumped in a chair, snoring loudly. With a heavy heart, John explained his mother's situation. "She hasn't stirred since last night. She was drinking with some men in the kitchen. It'll be a while before she wakes. When she does, she'll demand money from me, then use it to buy more alcohol and cigarettes. If I don't bring enough, she'll hurl insults at me. Why is she like this? Why does she drink? Why doesn't she love me like other mothers?" Julia and Mark exchanged grim glances, deeply troubled by John's account. However, their resolve remained unyielding as they declared, "We're taking you home, John. Tomorrow, we'll accompany you to see a doctor about your leg, all right?" Leaving a note for John's mother detailing their decision, they ushered him away from the desolate scene. John embraced Julia with heartfelt gratitude, likening her to a fairy from his storybooks. Though touched, Julia's smile was tinged with sorrow as she ran her fingers through the boy's unruly curls. En route, they purchased new attire and backpacks stocked with essentials for John, who expressed profound appreciation and eagerness for a fresh start with them. Arriving home, Julia's thoughts were consumed by caring for the child. After bathing John and examining his leg, they realized the severity of the situation. His limb was visibly misshapen, indicating a grave underlying condition. After a nourishing meal and clad in fresh attire, John drifted into a peaceful slumber, a serene smile gracing his lips. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Julia, Mark, and Simon convened to address their newfound responsibility. Julia was resolute in her determination to care for John, yet Mark voiced apprehensions regarding the potential complexities of formal adoption, cautioning of the legal hurdles they might face. Excited at the prospect of welcoming John into their fold, Simon pledged to be a supportive older brother. Mark interjected, "While I'm in favor of John staying with us, we must acknowledge the legal implications. Adoption is a lengthy and intricate process. Are you prepared for this?" Undeterred, Julia responded with unwavering resolve. "Ever since I laid eyes on John in the subway, something stirred within me. He's no longer a stranger, he's become family. I'm committed to giving him a happy and normal childhood. He deserves nothing less. Without our help, what fate awaits him? A life marred by delinquency and despair, perhaps even incarceration. Together, we can nurture him into a good person, help him find purpose, and who knows, maybe even walk again. I'm prepared to fight for him, no matter the obstacles." Thank you for standing by me. The following day, Julia escorted John to a pediatric orthopedist. After a thorough examination, including x-rays and CT scans, the doctor delivered their assessment. The condition of his leg is grave. We'll need to proceed with intricate surgery on the knee and ankle, followed by an extensive rehabilitation period. He'll require specialized footwear. With luck, within approximately 6 months, his leg should regain functionality. Are you in agreement with the proposed procedure? With unwavering resolve, John eagerly exclaimed, I'm ready to undergo it all if it means I can walk, run, and ride a bike again, Aunt Julia. I wholeheartedly accept the surgery. I promise to muster strength and refrain from complaining, no matter the hardships. When I fell off the bike it hurt, but I endured. I want my legs to be healthy again, John expressed, his voice filled with determination. Julia embraced the child, offering reassurance. We'll take care of everything, John. My husband and I will cover the surgery costs. But now, we need to convince your mother to authorize it. Confronting John's mother, Jennifer, proved challenging. They found her inebriated and had to rouse her with cold water. Explaining their intentions amidst her intoxicated state was no easy feat. They discussed the medical consultation and diagnosis, but Jennifer, irate and intoxicated, protested vehemently. Who are you to decide for my son? I'm his mother, and I won't allow you to lay a finger on him. He's my bread and butter. Give him back to me this instant. Attempting to reason with her, Julia pleaded softly, Can't you see? You're consigning John to a life of hardship. Doesn't your son, who struggles to walk, deserve compassion? Have you considered his future? Please let the surgeon intervene. He deserves a chance at a healthy life. Can't you feel anything as a mother? We'll handle all the expenses. We just need your consent. Unmoved, Jennifer retorted, Don't meddle in my affairs. You didn't give birth to him. I said no. If you don't return my son, I'll call the police and accuse you of kidnapping. Fed up, Mark slammed his hand on the table, his frustration evident. Go ahead, call the police. We'll show them the conditions you're subjecting your son to. John will be placed in a shelter and you'll forfeit your parental rights. Sign the consent now. Consider this a wake-up call. Your priority seems to be alcohol. With a pointed gesture, he presented bottles of alcohol alongside some food, silently challenging the negligent mother to reconsider her stance. Jennifer quickly assessed the situation, signing the papers without hesitation, but not without lamenting. Why are you doing this to me? I love my son. We're just going through hard times. I can't find a job. So I drink sometimes to numb the problems. Mark, silently reflecting, thought to himself, children shouldn't have to endure the consequences of their parents' vices. It's unfair. Outside, Julia and Mark breathed a sigh of relief, grateful to have extricated themselves from that tense situation. Almost simultaneously, they voiced their concern. We can't allow John to return to such a toxic environment. It's no place for a child. How he managed to survive there for so long is beyond me. With determination, Julia organized everything for John's surgery, ensuring all necessary tests were conducted. When the doctor requested blood donations from the family, an unexpected discovery surfaced. Julia and John shared the same rare blood type. Perplexed, the doctor inquired, Are you two related? Julia, denying any familial connection, explained John's situation. The doctor proposed a DNA test to confirm any potential relationship while proceeding with surgery preparations, expressing confidence in their likely connection. Sharing the doctor's observations with Mark, Julia contemplated, the doctor might be onto something. Have you noticed their striking resemblance? Perhaps we should compare childhood photos. Intrigued, Mark agreed, it's worth exploring. Let's proceed with the DNA test. Meanwhile, John braced himself for the impending surgery. As John underwent the procedure, Julia, having known him for just 2 weeks, experienced overwhelming concern. She anxiously awaited news, her heart heavy with worry. Finally, the doctor emerged with reassuring updates. The surgery was successful, but the road to recovery would be arduous. In that brief period, Julia and John had forged a bond so deep that they felt like a genuine family. John had become attached to Julia, facing each stage of his treatment with courage and even attempting to lift her spirits with his playful rhymes and wordplay. His recovery journey was not just physical but also emotional, filled with hurdles and moments of revelation. Julia accompanied him through it all, her heart a mixture of anxiety and hope. Witnessing John's resilience during physiotherapy sessions filled her with admiration. He approaches each exercise and procedure with such determination, even when the pain and exhaustion seem overwhelming, Julia often remarked, offering him a reassuring smile as she held his hand during their sessions. During this time, Julia couldn't shake off the thought of their shared rare blood type. As they lay in bed at night, she contemplated the possibility of some distant familial connection. Perhaps he's a distant cousin, she mused, attempting to unravel a family mystery she hadn't known existed. Sensing his wife's introspection, Mark inquired, "What's on your mind, Julia?" She sighed softly, responding, "Just pondering the unexpected twists life throws our way, Mark. I never imagined John could be a distant relative." As the day of the DNA test results drew near, Julia's anxiety heightened. Regardless of the outcome, she knew that she and John were already deeply connected. Yet, the prospect of a blood tie stirred a mix of anticipation and apprehension within her. "Regardless of the test, John is a part of our family," she assured Mark and Simon, who nodded in understanding. They were prepared to embrace John as kin, irrespective of the outcome. One day, Mark rushed into the room, visibly agitated, clutching a set of papers. "Julia, you won't believe this. Sit down," he urged, handing her the test results. "John is your biological son, with a 99% probability." Stunned, Julia struggled to comprehend. "But the baby who died at the maternity wasn't my son. My child has been alive all this time, and who was I married to then? How could this have happened?" Overhearing the conversation, John was bewildered by the revelations. "So, you're my real mother?" he asked incredulously. "This is unbelievable. And Jennifer, the woman I thought was my mother, isn't actually my mom." Julia held John tightly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "It seems you are indeed my real son, my dear. I'm overjoyed to have found you alive. They told me you had passed away. Please forgive me, I didn't know. We'll uncover the truth about what happened. I promise I'll never leave you again, my little ray of sunshine." In the subsequent legal proceedings, Julia was officially recognized as John's biological mother, and Jennifer, the neglectful mother, lost her parental rights. When Jennifer realized she would lose her benefits, she suddenly remembered John, begging for him to return, feigning love and longing. However, John remembered the mistreatment and neglect vividly. He was grateful for the love of his new parents, Julia and Mark, and was determined to bring happiness to their lives. After an extensive investigation, detectives unraveled the mystery behind the disappearance of Julia's son. They discovered that Lucia, in a cruel and desperate act, had swapped Julia's newborn with Jennifer's deceased baby at the hospital. Both women had given birth on the same day, facilitating the malicious exchange. Shocked by this revelation, Julia demanded answers. How is this possible? Why is Lucia not in prison? She should be held accountable along with Octavio. I need to confront her, look her in the eyes, and ask why she ruined my life and my son's. The detective, with a grave expression, informed her, life has its own way of meting out justice. Lucia is now confined to an asylum, battling a terminal illness. She spends her days alone, without visitors, enduring immense suffering. And to complete the picture, Octavio succumbed to tuberculosis in prison. These words made Julia realize that, in some way, Lucia was already facing the consequences of her actions, isolated and forgotten in her final days. Upon arriving home, Julia was greeted by a heartwarming scene. Simon and John were engrossed in a playful game, while the savory aroma of Mark's tortilla filled the air. Their faces lit up at the sight of her. "Mom, you're back. We missed you. Is everything okay?" "You look a bit worried," John remarked, perceptive to Julia's expression. Seated at the table with her beloved family, Julia opened up about her emotions. "Today, I'm reminded of how incredibly blessed I am. I have 2 amazing sons, a husband who's my rock, and a fulfilling job. I truly feel fortunate." As Mark served dinner, he chimed in, "I'm glad you recognize our blessings. Remember, we're always here for you." The dinner conversation was animated, filled with laughter and dreams for the future. John, now fully integrated into the family, shared in the joy. In their home, where love prevailed, everything felt harmonious. Together, they had weathered storms and overcome obstacles. Now, with the shadows of the past behind them, they looked forward to a future brimming with happiness and unity. Their life, rich with love and companionship, marched onward, leaving darkness behind and paving the way for days of joy and fulfillment. If you enjoyed this story, we'd appreciate a like, and a subscribe to our channel. Your support enables us to continue sharing incredible stories almost daily. Don't miss out on the next captivating tale coming your way. Thank you for being a part of our